Hello YouTubers, Charles here. As I'm sure most of you have heard already, the Minecraft version 1.9 will be coming out later this week. That's very good news, and I'm really happy for it. But that's also pushed me to finish up my Schematic To Command Block utility, which works for Minecraft 1.9 and later. Or at least I think later, unless they change stuff. I showed off this utility first about a month ago, a little over a month ago. I had a video on it. And I mentioned a few issues and a few improvements I could make, and I believe I've made all of them and actually a few more. If you haven't heard of this utility, well, I'll link the previous video in the description here, and there'll be a link to download the utility also in the description. But it's basically, it will allow you to take schematic files, which are portions of a world, Minecraft world, or like a building or a base or any part of a Minecraft world basically, and they're portion of a world, and my utility allows you to import them into either a vanilla single player world or a vanilla server world without anything outside of Minecraft needed, using command blocks. Now, you need access to command blocks for this to work, but you can either, if you're an op of a server, or you get help of an op, that you can use command blocks, or for single player, you can actually go to the options, not there, and hit open to LAN, and turn allow cheats on, and then click Start LAN World. I'm not going to do that, but that would then turn on cheats, which is basically equivalent to becoming op on a server, but for a single player world. At that point, you can, well, I just did this a second ago, but you can say give @p command block. @p is the closest player, or player entity. And you can see I have 5 command blocks, but after I run this, I now have 6, and then you can place the command block and put the commands my utility gives you. Now, normally schematics would be used by MCEdit, and I believe WorldEdit can also use them, but I've never really used WorldEdit. I have used MCEdit, but that requires access to the world files, and while that would be okay for single player, definitely you can't normally get access to world files on a server. So let me give you a little demonstration here of my utility. As you can see, I'm recording my whole desktop here, so you can see the whole process. I am on Minecraft pre-release 2. I don't think there'll be another pre-release, seeing that we're just a few days away from the full release. I'll go over here, and I'll get this torch. Not used to dual wielding yet. So I will put a command block down. You don't have to do that first. I'm going to Alt-Tab out of Minecraft, and the link to download my utility will link you to this file, the Schematic To Command Block 1.9b. Previous version was A. Open up the zip file, and inside you'll see this jar file. You can extract it, put it wherever you want. It doesn't really matter where it runs from. Just on Windows, assuming you have Java installed, you just need to double click it, and my utility will pop up. Slide it down a little bit. You don't have to worry about any of the options. Most of the options are fine by default. You can mouse over them for a brief description, or I give a fuller description here in this text. But yeah, you can read that at your leisure. The main thing you want to do is click this choose button to choose a schematic. I am going to do this 3x3 door schematic. You click open, and in just a second, you get information, well, a little information about the schematic, the file name, the width, height, and length, total volume, and here's one command that will recreate it. You can either highlight the whole command manually and hit Control-C to copy it, or I have this nice little copy command button here. I copy command 1. If there's multiple commands, once you click copy command 1, which will copy it into your clipboard, the button will become copy command 2. When you click that, it will become 3, etc., until all the commands were copied. Now, obviously, only copy one command at a time. Your clipboard can't hold more than one command. But I copied command 1. I'm going to now right-click on the command block, paste it into the command block, and hit done. Now, this will recreate the schematic once the command block is activated. You can activate the command block using redstone, or you can stick a button on it, or various things like that. Now, this was 10 by 10 by 10. The way the utility is written, you can see in the middle of the second block of text on the left, it says facing north. So this is north, that is west. So the way the utility is written, this command block will build things to the southeast of it. So from the command block is 1 block north and 1 block west of the northwest corner of the build area by default. Now, let me tab out. You can control the offset, but if this is all zeros, that means really 1 block north and west. You don't want to put that. You can make this -1 and -1, but you'll destroy the command block in the process of building, especially for multiple command blocks. That would be a bad thing because you'll destroy all the other commands. Anyway, so the build will start here, go 10 blocks this way, 10 blocks this way, and 10 blocks up. And when I say here, I really mean here. If you do want to set it to down 1, like a lot of builds, contain the top level of dirt and grass, well, you come here, you set Y to be -1 or -2, or however thick it is till ground level as a negative. So if it contains 3 blocks to the top dirt, you set that to -3, and then you choose the schematic again, and that will regenerate the commands, but this time generating everything 3 blocks lower so that the surfaces level out. So I am just going to activate this command block by putting a redstone torch down next to it. And there we go. You saw a little bit of the pistons moving, but typically everything will be restored exactly. It's just that, hey, there's some repeaters in this, and I've done a small optimization in the way I am handling redstone, so it takes fewer commands. And so basically these pistons were put down in the extended state, but this redstone was initially off, so they started to retract, but then the redstone got powered by this torch, and so they extended again. So they kind of just flickered there for a second as this was built. This is, well, it's 2 3x3 doors. This is one of the builds from my 1,000 block build race mini game. If you haven't seen that, probably also put a link in the description. But it's a mini game where I have 2 teams being shown a build that fits within 10 by 10 by 10, making it 1,000 blocks, and they're given the materials to build it, and the first team to build it wins. Hence 1,000 block build race. Anyway, this shows the basics of my utility in that it recreates the schematic as it was saved, and it handles complex redstone. Hopefully, well, that didn't work, but it will work now. There it goes. The one thing that doesn't seem to work right is the power state of certain blocks isn't saved. So even though I put the redstone back, like this block might have been powered, but the game doesn't realize it until you cycle everything off then on again. And so if a piston relies on bud effects, as they are called, it won't work the very first time. But you know, once you cycle everything through and the bud effect gets reset up, then it works perfectly. This should, I think this one works, or doesn't the first time, but it should work now. All right. I think the bottom mechanism is actually somewhat similar on these two. These are two 3x3 doors, both designed by Mumbo Jumbo, as far as I recall. This is a spiral version, whereas this is a quicker open and shut version. So you can look back last time I showed off all of these things being built. Small house, small fountain. Yes, liquids are recreated correctly. Little creeper, he's actually filled with TNT. Some rail elevators. Cyan cat. A bigger house. This one actually has fire inside, and even signs with text get recreated properly. Well, there's a button on that door. I didn't use it. Small castle. There's things inside. Furnaces and enchanting table. Small tower. I think that's supposed to be a clock. Creeper base. This is interesting because we got cobwebs and vines on the wall inside. If I could just get down. There we go. A little seating area. Potted plant. That reminds me, I should note, even items in the chest are recreated. This will work for older schematics. I took care to convert as many things as I could find. Potted plants are represented differently in 1.9, and I had to write some code to get the flower or whatever you had in the pot recreated correctly. I'm not sure why you would have spawn eggs, but spawn eggs changed a bit, and I had to write some code to handle converting the old way they were represented into the way 1.9 represents them. Potions also changed. So those had to be converted. There were quite a number of things. Almost everything to do with mobs or armor stands holding items had to change, because now they can hold items in their left or right hand, and basically the way things were held in hands were changed completely. Beacons, I'm not sure if beacon effects, but definitely the beacons are coming across fine. Let's see, this was just a little, this supposed to be an iron golem farm, giant command block. Here's my rail station, and oh, did I fix this one up? Okay, as you can see, this did not get recreated correctly. And as I had said, basically, the way this places things, it starts in the northwest corner. Notably, the reason I start in the northwest corner is because positive is this direction and positive is that direction. So it's easier just having numbers go bigger. So I start in the northwest and head east, do a row, come back one further south, then head east. So it basically places blocks in that order, and then when it finishes a whole layer, it comes back and then starts the next layer up. Now obviously I try to use fills if I can, and fills can go in different directions depending on which way has the most blocks. But because of that, rails that were placed weren't always, you can see like these, I'd place this one, I place this one, I place this one, I place this one telling it was north-south, but it would say, oh wait, there's one to the west, so let's turn east-west. And yeah, that causes problems. Up here you can see it makes little nice circles. Now they look nice, that's not how the schematic originally was. So one of the things I've changed is the way I handle rails. Now, if you don't have rails that are running right next to each other, if you don't have rails like this, rails probably aren't going to be a problem. Let me go over to where I tested this out. So I had made a test for rails, and I'm like, I know I can do rails better. I just have to kind of follow the path of the rail. And it goes right over here. And that should fix the rails up. Here it is. So I made this test rail area. You see, we got rails right next to each other heading east-west. We got rails right next to each other heading north-south. We got rails in this funny shape. It's actually hard to make this shape. You actually have to place and then break some rails. But basically, the point of that is that this is a four-way crossing level. So, like, you can go north there, and this one will go south. And the same thing heading east and west. So you can have rails that cross each other with the minecart going in the correct direction. Without, having to go over or under. Now, when I tried to recreate this just with my naive algorithm, placing the rails just as I would place any other blocks, this is what I got. These corners all turn the same way, which wasn't correct. And this turned, it's supposed to be north-south, it got all squiggled and broken. That's where I started. So I worked on my algorithm, and this is what I wound up with. These are going correctly. In fact, all the curves are going the correct way. You can see at one point, like, hey, these are turning down when they're supposed to be not down. There's only one rail that is wrong in this whole thing, and that is this rail. And the only reason I think it's wrong is, well, there's no way of placing it correctly without deleting one of these first. So that is supposed to be going to... Let's see. This is that way. That is that way. That is that. It's supposed to be this way. So I can delete this one and delete this one, and then when I put that one back, it's correct, and then I just have to put those back. But without deleting these first, there's basically no way of getting it right. Basically what my algorithm does is find a safe rail. That's basically a rail that doesn't have any other rails pointing at it except the ones that it points to. This is a safe rail, this is a safe rail. In fact, most of these are safe rails. This would not be a safe rail, not even because it has another rail next to it. So depending on the order you place them in, they can mess up. So my algorithm, like in this case, it would start here, and it would place rails along, and then this way, and then it would get here and say, oh wait, I can't place this one yet, because it points to a rail that doesn't point back at it, so it stops there. But then it would come back and like, well, let's go the other direction, and it follows the rails along. And in this case, it would be able to place this rail, but then it would stop at this one, because this one has the same problem. It would go through and place all the rails that are safe, and then it would take another pass. And then it will take another pass. And then until it finds there are no more safe rails, or once it's placed a safe rail, the following rails don't have to be safe. Like, this is a safe rail. It can place this one, and then it can place all these because it knows they're not going to turn, because it's going to put the other rail right along after it. The problem is when you finally get to the end and then you have to place these last few rails that you missed before. In this case, placing this rail causes that one to turn straight. But having one broken rail, when there was like a good, 15 or 20 before, all of those aren't right, and then all these curves aren't right, and then that curve isn't right, and that curve isn't right. I think that's a better better situation. So if that describes your situation, you would just turn on the complex rails, and then it would take more care placing the rails. Now, taking more care also means placing the rails one at a time, which means it takes more commands to place the rails. But, if you got a big schematic and it takes like 14 command blocks, but it also has a bunch of rails, turning on complex rails may move it up to 15 command blocks, but then all your rails will probably be correct. So one extra command block in a case like that, I don't think is a bad thing. A few other changes. Let me see if I can find it. I've been building all over here. It's up over here. Are you up over here? Come on. Recording seems to causing this. Here we are. To take longer to load. So one of the problems I had previously, I had my I call it my banner airship. It's got some item sorters, and basically the item sorters sort of broke. I mean, they worked. It's just the items in them kind of got messed up, and that was because, the whole schematic does take. It used to take 14. It now takes 15 command blocks to recreate, but I'm recreating it more accurately. But basically, it would create a level, sort of like this, that had lots of hoppers, but those hoppers were part of an item sorter, and the redstone for the rest of the item sorter wasn't in place yet. So the items were starting to flow out of the hoppers before I activated the next block that then put in the rest of the redstone and hoppers and stuff that were part of the item sorter. So enough items were flowing out that, it basically broke the item sorter and was letting all sorts of items flow through instead of just the item I wanted. So my solution to that is hoppers are now placed in a second pass. Now, I already had a second pass to handle things like torches. Like if you had a torch on a side of a block, if I placed this before the block, the torch would not stay there, and when any update would happen near it, the torch would just like pop off as if you broke the block, like that. So I'm now putting hoppers in on the second pass, so that will that should fix any item sorter problems. But in testing that, this was my test. Yeah, you can see this first test didn't go well. All the redstone broke. I then had to make some changes to say, okay, any redstone components, redstone wire, pressure plates. Also, I'm checking repeaters and comparators. Make sure that the block they are being placed on is there before they're placed. So that's another small change that doesn't really affect anything. But another thing that I did is I found out I should have realized this before, but I recreate redstone with the actual redstone power level. Like when I place this redstone here, I say, hey, you're redstone and you're at power level 15, and you're redstone and you're power level 14, and you're redstone and you're power level 13. But doing that, I have to set each individual redstone dust as a separate set block. Like this whole row of stone bricks, this whole level is basically done with like one fill command. Well, technically it's two because of this corner, but very efficient. You know, probably something on the order of 100 characters, and you have, you know, that's 16 by 16. So 255 blocks or so in, you know, just a few hundred characters, where I'm using like probably 50 or 60 characters for every single redstone spot. So I figured out, and you know, I tested this. I mean, looks identical. This was placed with a fill for the redstone dust, and the game, as soon as a redstone dust touched a torch, the game automatically calculated the power level for all of the redstone dust automatically. So that is also, and now ignore wire power is by default checked. If for some reason that causes problems, you can uncheck it, and this will then block by block or dust by dust set the power of every redstone dust. So those are the major changes, I believe. I've probably done a few other minor ones. Well, I will recreate this here. This is my banner airship, the Purple Hawk. This is the one. Well, I have several copies of it here, but this is the one. Like I said, I have a chicken cooker up here, and this is supposed to shoot out the feathers, where the item sorter would break. Come on. I obviously fixed it manually there, but yes. That is it. I will run this schematic now. It also has, as you can see, rails all over the place. Basically to distribute bone meal to different sections. There's a flower farm in here. This especially would get all messed up. I might have actually put this version in using MCEdit. Let's see, are you messed up as well? Let's, I manually, yeah, here, this one's, this is what would happen without complex rails checked. So I am going to, should be enough room. Maybe not. I'll just fly back this ways a ways. It's about 100 blocks long and about 70 wide. This should be pretty good. I probably said this during the previous video, but I like to place down the command blocks in such a way. They are now directional. You see these are pointing to me, just like furnaces and things are. They point to you when you place them down. But I like to, every 5, put one facing up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Especially with larger builds, that makes it easier to keep track where you are in the build. Alt-tab out. I am going to check complex rails. And then I am going to go choose that schematic, which is Purple Hawk. 70, 99, 46 tall, 14 commands. I thought it was 15. Okay, 14. I have the copy command button showing just below, so I can click here, click copy command, paste, hit done. 1, copy command 2. 3, copy command, paste, done. There's always a little lag with commands this big. Copy command 4, paste, done. And now you can see we are up to the command block that's facing up. So, and we just copied command 5, so we know where, didn't miss one or anything like that. Command 6. Copy command 7. Copy command 8. Copy command 9. Copy command 10. 11. 12. 13. And 14. The button says all commands copied, so we can get rid of that last block. And then you want to activate them in the same order. So I'm going to just let the text go away. There we go. There goes 1. Oh, and I still had the -3. But you can see how it carves out the ground automatically. And builds. It will leave this here. This gets reused by all the other commands, but the last command will delete that. Oh, and that reminds me, that is another change I was able to do. Previously, the last sand block would get left behind, but I have fixed that. That only happened in the case you had multiple commands. Now just sand items get left behind because they wind up breaking on that block, but the last one, for whatever reason, wasn't breaking, but I was able to basically delay things a tick so that the game would get that last sand block to land on the rail and break automatically instead of basically destroying the rail and falling and landing on top of the final command block. And basically you just have to activate these one after another. As soon as all that stuff disappears, you're safe to activate the next one. You basically just want to make sure all the commands have run. Like you can see, this is taking a little time. And the very last command, those are basically a bunch of command block minecarts, and each has a command in them. And and they're all stacked on top of each other, and the very last one has a command that deletes command block minecarts. So the last one runs, deletes all the minecarts. So once you see those all disappear, you know the game has run all the commands. And sometimes it just takes longer for whatever reason, lag and things. You can see banners get recreated. Those are supposed to look like propellers on the back of this airship. You can see there's no chicken or anything shooting out, which there would have been previously, I think, by this point. Basically, the reason, part of the reason of the lag is just because we're placing so many blocks, and that's the last one. Everything disappears. We're placing so many blocks, the game has to do a lot of light recalculation, and that takes some time. But there we go. Everything is back. See, the redstone actually got cycled. These run off a light sensor, so yeah, it actually runs off that light sensor. Or is it this one? It runs off one of these light sensors. This one. I sneak the power in through the side. Yes. But basically, the redstone will cycle once. And I can't fly. But everything gets recreated, and well, there you go. That's the utility. So if you think you'll find this useful, please download it, try it out. I definitely want to hear feedback. I want to hear if you have any issues, any schematics that aren't recreated correctly, so I can improve this, fix up any issues that people find. I don't know of any issues at the moment, but I don't have access to every schematic. I've just tried some things that I've known and that I've downloaded. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And we'll probably be in Minecraft 1.9, and there'll be a lot of fun there. So, thanks for watching.